Let us now understand the modes of heat transfer. There are three modes of heat transfer, out of which the first is called as conduction, the other is called as convection, and the third is called as radiation. Now we'll understand each of them in detail. Let's start by understanding conduction. So for conduction, we'll be taking two examples. In the first scenario, we'll be having a stove with us, a burning stove. And on this burning stove, we'll place a pan. Now this pan is a solid material and we have a plastic handle on it. Why do we have this? Now after we start heating the pan, we know that its temperature starts rising simply because it starts absorbing heat. And heat will transfer from one part of the body to the other part. That is the reason we have plastic handle on it. As soon as we remove it from the stove, after a particular point in time, we see that its temperature starts to decrease. Let's take another example to understand conduction. In this example, we have two bricks and in between those two bricks, we have a metal rod. On this metal rod, or you can say this metal scale, we'll put pieces of wax. The yellow part that you see are pieces of wax. Now, this entire thing is at normal temperature right now. Now what we'll do is, on one side, we'll place a burning candle. That means this burning candle will start heating one end of the scale, of the metal scale. Now, metal is a good conductor of heat. It starts absorbing heat. That means this side, this portion will now start becoming hot. And after a particular point in time, you will notice that the wax pieces start to melt. Why is this happening? This is happening because energy, that is the heat energy, started flowing from one end to the other. Why does this happen? This happens because when we heat this end, the particle starts to vibrate. And this particle, when it vibrates, it transfers its energy to the neighboring particle. And the neighboring particle also gets heated up. It gets more energy. It starts vibrating. And in this manner, the energy starts to flow from one point to the other. So here what we understand is that the transfer of heat from the hot part of the object to the cold part of the object is called as the conduction of heat. And we also know that those who conduct heat are called as good conductors, right? So the materials which allow heat to pass through them easily are called as conductors or good conductors of heat. Now similarly, when we talk about the bodies that do not allow heat to pass through them, they are called as insulators such as plastic, wood, etc. Now since we have here known that conduction takes place through solids, we understand that a material medium is required for conduction of heat. Now after conduction, it's time to understand convection. For convection, let us take this example. Here on this burning stove, we have a vessel and in this vessel, we have water. We start heating water. What we understand over here is that the lower part of the water starts getting heated up. Now when we heat something, it expands, its volume increases and density decreases. That is the reason it becomes lighter and the lighter water starts going in the upward direction and the heavier water comes in the downward direction. So here you see the particles have moved, right? And the heat transfer has also taken place. In solids, that is in conduction, the particles did not move. They only transferred their energy to the neighboring particles, right? So convection mostly takes place in fluids. So here the definition for convection is heat is transferred by means of currents. What does current mean? Current means to flow. It's called convection currents and this process is called as convection. So convection mostly takes place in fluids. Conduction takes place in solids. Now after this, what we need to understand is radiation. Now for understanding radiation, what we need to consider is the sun. And here we have these two vessels, right? Now imagine this, understand this, think about this. Sun is in space and between Earth and the sun, we have vacuum. There is no material medium. Even then, the rays from the sun reach out the Earth. And when these rays reach out the Earth, it carries heat along itself, right? And this heat, this transfer of heat is in the form of radiation. So the transfer of heat that takes place without a medium is called as radiation. So these were the three modes of heat transfer: conduction, convection, radiation. In conduction, we know that solids are required. Convection takes place in fluids, whereas in radiation, we do not require